Hello, Katie.
Hello again. I'm really excited about making this one, which is the little post box, because I think that the design is so lovely. Or I guess you might call it a mailbox in America.
Yeah.
And I think that's so cute. And we don't have them in England, so I've always found them quite adorable.
So you can see here that this object we have loaded it already. Remember going here into image and load it there. And we're going to start with the envelopes. And the envelopes are interesting because instead of being a real envelope, we're going to make the plastic style piece that you might have if you are playing Playmobil or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like I've definitely had that where you have more of a small rectangle of plastic with a little bump of extra plastic on top.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And maybe it has a bit of a drawing if you're.
Yeah, sometimes it has a little sticker to make it
Yeah.
more realistic, but in
Yeah.
reality it's just a piece of plastic.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna scale there the points, so I have it there, and I'm gonna make a few cuts in order to have that. It's gonna only have a bump there on the front, and let's see how we do it. So we can make it. I'm gonna make always the start with the loop cuts that we've done before. So that's good, and I'm gonna make another cut there and probably another cut there. So now I want a line that goes along that, and that's what we're gonna extrude.
Okay.
But I cannot join these 2 points using a loop cut. You see, loop cuts only work on loops. So if I want to join those points, I can use what we have here underneath, which is the knife. So the knife point, the knife is a bit different. I'm gonna be selecting everything. So I'm gonna select from this point, and I'm gonna select to this point.
Okay.
I'm gonna do double click and I press enter. So now it kind of copies or kind of makes a cut. You see how it made a cut from here to here? And I'm gonna do the same from here. I'm gonna go there, enter, and I have it cut. And technically, this is not allowed in perfect modeling techniques because here I don't have a quad, now I have triangles.
Yeah.
But it's not a big problem because this is a small detail of our illustration. So no worries about it. We're gonna select these points. And when I say not allowed, what I mean is that if someone is being very they want to use these assets for a video game and they want it to be super perfect, you should make sure as much as possible that you keep all the time quads and not triangles. But for now, it's not that relevant. We're going to extrude this. You see, this envelope is going to be extruded there. And now I'm going to move. With the move position, I'm going to move this a bit inside there and put it down. You see what I'm doing? So now when I'm putting it inside a subdivision surface, let's see how it looks. So I'm putting it inside a subdivision surface. I'm making a couple more cuts, a couple more subdivisions. And let's go to object mode and shade is smooth. And you see how I'm getting the shadow of that?
Yeah.
And that for me is looking already very pretty.
Yeah.
The only thing I need now is to make it a bit sharper. So with loop cuts, I can now very easily make a loop cut that kind of cuts and puts it a bit together there. You see?
Yeah.
And that's probably around it. I could make another one here to make my envelope a bit thicker, depending on what I wanted. That's fine. And then if I wanted these to be a bit sharper, I can always kind of make another cut there and another cut there, and that would be sharper. But I kind of like how smooth it is.
Yeah, I think so too. It feels a bit more like a soft toy or something.
Yeah. And the same with this. I could make a cut towards here and make it very sharp there. But for me, this is quite pretty. So that for me is enough to make a lovely thing. As you were saying that I can imagine a Playmobil toy having a little sticker on top of that. Okay, now let's make the main part.
Okay.
So we're gonna do it from cylinders because I think it's gonna go a bit faster and it's gonna look good anyway. So I'm gonna add a mesh. I'm gonna add a cylinder. So I have my cylinder there. My envelope right now is quite big. So I'm gonna select the envelope and with the scale, I'm gonna scale that down there. And I'm gonna make it disappear for now because I don't want it. And now I'm gonna, actually I think I lost the transformations on my cylinder. I'm gonna add it again, mesh, cylinder, and I'm gonna make sure that the depth is a bit longer, so it's quite long. Just looking at the reference, that looks good, and maybe the radius can be a bit thicker. And if it's not looking smooth enough, right click smooth, that's looking good, but now we have the problem on that.
The bevel.
So we can add the bevel.
Yeah. We said it would be repetition adding on your knowledge, so.
But people may say, oh, this is repeating too much, but it's repeating too much, but we are generating different objects.
Oh, I think we should be happy that it's repeating.
So I think repeating is very good when the results are being different. And I think it's good to know that you don't need to use all the techniques all the time, but you need to use the ones that are going to allow you to make pretty things. So I'm going to scale this, and you see now everything got a bit weird because my bevel now got very strange, and that's because now I need to Control A and collapse all transformations. Now my bevel is working well. Is that combination of the scaling and then collapsing all the transformations with the Control A.
Yeah, I think that it's really wonderful to see as well. I think how you can get your own style in 3D modeling. I think often people don't really realize quite yet how much people have an individual style, because you understand when you're doing a flat drawing that you might do, but in 3D I think there's so much more to explore.
I couldn't agree more. It's very important. I think that people need to I think the more you learn how to model, the more you learn that modeling is not only because you want to have the technical ability to model, but modeling is the way in which a 3D artist can make things to look the way they have them in their heads. You're translating how you want something to look, and you're putting it as for an object. And I think if you don't do that, if you don't learn how to model yourself, you're missing one of the biggest parts of 3D. The same if you are only downloading files from the internet, you are kind of missing on being able to express and make things to look exactly like you would like them to look.
Yeah, and to be recognizable in your style. I think a lot of part where people are asking, how do you find your style? It is really through practice, through interpreting different objects in 3D, through realizing what tools you like and what methods you like.
100% agree. So I'm gonna make a couple more cuts here. I know before putting the subdivision surface how it's gonna work, because I want it to be a bit sharper here and I want a bit smoother on the top. So I have the cuts there, but not the cuts on the top. And now let's see now if it's working, because I'm doing it a lot without having checked before. I'm gonna put inside the subdivision surface, and that's looking to me it's looking pretty good. Shade smooth, and there we have it.
Lovely.
And now let's see, because we are gonna discover another technique. Don't think that this part of the tutorial is only following the techniques we learned before. I think in each of them we're gonna learn something else, because I had one thing that I wanted to do in this object, which was to kind of make a door that would open and close.
Yeah.
And we could model it by hand, but I remember when I was making it, I was like, is there a way in which I can get the geometry from the front and kind of use it to make the door without having to work twice? And I was thinking, oh, I could, but I could if in edit mode, I could select the faces on the front. Like, so imagine if I select the face on the front and I could extrude it, but when I selected the face on the front, this face was only a cube. And why is that? It's because the subdivision surface is being applied after the transformation. So you would want to be able to collapse to kind of make the subdivision surface so it stays forever, so now I can modify that geometry. So in order to do it, we're going to go from edit mode. You can see right now I cannot apply the transformation, but if I'm in object mode and I select my object and I go to my modifier, if I click here, you see that it says apply?
Oh yeah.
If I apply it, now my subdivision disappear, but it applied to my geometry. So if I go back to my edit mode, now everything I have is in the geometry.
Okay, so you're no longer going to be able to modify the subdivision surface because now that's the object.
That's the object.
Okay.
But that gives us many advantages for this occasion, because now I can go and select the points I want. So I'm going to select this geometry. So I'm going to select probably these points as well, maybe these ones there as well. And we can do a few different things now. I'm actually going to probably select these loops. This loop with Alt-Shift, so I can apply there. And I'm going to deselect the ones from the bottom, and I'm going to select these ones. So I'm going to select like that. So I like this selection is where my holder is going to go.
Okay.
So if I do right click here, I can split it. So now it's going to generate new geometry from that point. So I'm going to split it there. So now I have two things. Now I'm going to split it there. I'm going to separate the selection. So now I have two selections. I have this selection that is the door, and this selection that is the object.
Okay, so using the same as we did before, and we had those two spheres.
Yeah.
And we accidentally made it in. Okay.
So now we separated it. And now that we have two different pieces of geometry, I can, now let's see how it works. Now in the object mode, I can move this out. So now we have the door, and then we have the inside of our post box. But you can see that the door and the inside of the post box are a bit like paper.
Yeah.
They don't have any thickness. but we have one modifier that will add the thickness. So if I select the door, I'm going to select only the door. We have it there. And in the modifiers, and it's called solidify. So I'm going to apply a solidify. And when I apply a solidify, I can apply thickness. You see? And when I apply thickness to my object, I can now make my object to be thick.
In either direction there.
In either direction. So now I can apply as well to my main object. I can go apply modifier, and I'm going to select solidify. And look how it's working there. When I apply it, it's kind of applying a bit of thickness inside the object. So now I can move this object a bit up, so it's in the position that I wanted. And now I have my door. And one of the things I wanted with my door is to kind of be able to close it and open it whenever I wanted. So in order to do that, what I need to do is modify the origins of my door and kind of put the origins there, the very
okay,
bottom.
So then when you're rotating it, it'll rotate from the bottom.
Exactly. So I'm going to put that there. And now when I do my rotation, it opens and closes, okay?
And that's just for you.
Yes, that's just for me because there's not going to be animation. But imagine if you were having a little animation, it would be quite pretty. So it's going to be open there, and we're going to put a few different letters there. And the only thing that I have left there is this little piece. This little piece, is super simple. I'm going to make it very quickly. I'm going to put that there from a cube. Edit mode, scale. Okay.
Yeah, this little piece is the flag that when the postman comes around, they put up if there's post, and down when you take it in.
You know what? I didn't know that. You told me the other day, and I was like, I had no idea. I thought it was just a piece to make something pretty. I was like,
I think it's literally the prettiest thing ever.
I really like it because as well it's based on trust. Like any neighbor could come and kind of ruin the system. But
putting flags up and down.
You shouldn't tell little kids like how it works in case they kind of do it as jokes. Okay. Oh, this is moving in every direction. If I want to move it only in one direction, I think if I press Y or actually X or actually Z is the one I need, I can move only in Z. So that's little details that you can know when you want to do it. And now the same here in this direction. I'm gonna do it come towards here. And now if I put it all inside the subdivision surface, it's only gonna be about making a few more cuts so it looks pretty. And I think that by now people are going to start understanding what is the process of the program. And you can see as well that if you have used Cinema 4D in the past, there's not that many, it's not that different. The process, the programs are quite similar, and that's because all programs are working with the same foundations. If you are feeling overwhelmed by the program, think that once you learn the basis of 3D, you're going to be able to apply it to whatever you do. And probably it's not going to change as time progresses. So all the learning that you're doing here is going to be transferable when you continue learning. So it's kind of a bit difficult at the beginning, I feel, because it's a bit counterintuitive what you're doing. And you think like, why am I using so many different tools at the same time? And that's why in this course, we're trying to focus on not using that many. But the more you do it, the more intuitive it's going to be. And another thing that I would say when I talk to students and they say, oh, how do you learn how to model so many different objects? And I always say that in reality, you learn a few objects, and then during a while, a part of my life, now probably I do it a bit less, but I've always enjoyed that when I was learning, I would go in the street and kind of play the game of thinking, how could I model that? And for a while, it was my favorite game. I would be walking around, I would be like, how can I make that bench? How can I model that little decoration in the street or that house?
Yeah, well, actually, a lot of the ideas of the courses that we have in Pallata School kind of come from that too. Sometimes if you see new, interesting things, you might wonder how to model them and think, oh, actually, that would make a great course. That's a great way of explaining the theory to students in some other kind of practical shape or abstract shape.
Yeah, and as well, I think that modeling things from your day-to-day or things you see in your neighborhood or you see around is a great way. I'm going to apply all the transformations so my bevel gets good. It's a great way of kind of learning and doing objects and doing things that haven't been seen before. If we are all the time modeling the same things, it can be boring, but if you have some traditional post box that you have in your neighborhood, and I know this post box is a bit cheating because we are doing the typical post box that you have in America, but I think if you can kind of start doing things that are different in your neighborhood, it's quite fun to start making objects that belong to where you live. So, wherever you are, who is watching this, try to make the objects that you can see around you, because probably many of them haven't been done before, and people are going to love them.
Definitely, yeah. You don't have to be making Smokey the Bear
No.
in the log cabin. You can be making any kind of character with any sort of objects around them.
And I'm going to now put my letter. I'm going to put names here because it got a bit crazy, my file. So I'm going to go here, create a new collection, and the collection is going to be called Postbox. And now the postbox is going to go inside the collection, and everything but the letter is going to go in there. So now everything is inside the postbox, and my letter is there. And now I'm going to move the letter and kind of put it inside, scale it so it looks good. And another trick I have is like almost nothing in real life is, once you start kind of putting objects in the scene, nothing is ever in a perfect 90-degree angle.
Yeah.
So I recommend people to kind of rotate it a tiny bit, move it there, and now make a copy of the letter and put it a bit in, and rotate it a tiny bit again, and rotate a bit like that, so you get a variation.
It's all that imperfection and
yeah. So only 2 letters for me are enough already to kind of make some lovely postbox that is ready to collect post.
Yeah.
And you said that when it has post, it should be up, no?
Yeah.
So right now it's accurate.
It's official.
Okay, perfect. So we'll see you in the next lesson, and we will continue learning new techniques.
Thank you. See you there.
Bye.